we'll do the live thing first. Like, hey everybody, welcome back to the Bigmark podcast. It's me, your host, Bigmark. If it's your first time watching, welcome. If not, welcome back. Like I always say, if you ever wanted to reach out to the podcast for any other reason, let us know. If you want to come up as a guest, if you want to let us know how you feel about a topic, or if you wanted to hear about a certain topic and wanted me to do a little deep dive on it, hit me up in the comments or on our DMs at the Bigmark Pod or at the Bigmark Podcast. We're always there to answer your call, so to speak. Again, thank you all for being here. It's the best way you can possibly support the podcast is by being here with us now, listening, watching. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're watching on Spotify, thank you. Make sure to like the videos and subscribe to the channel and follow along and all that good stuff. If you did want to go that extra mile, check out our Patreon, patreon.com/BigmarkPod. And, yeah, again, thank you for being here. I'm excited to do another episode about a place in Scotland. Like I said, I was so lucky and so privileged to be able to go and spend 9 days in Edinburgh not so long ago, and I think I told you guys in the episode where I talked about Roslyn Chapel. If you haven't checked out that episode, go check it out now. That I was going to talk a little bit more about the trip. So one of the great places we did stop was Edinburgh. It says Edinburgh, sorry, but Edinburgh Castle, Scotland's fortress of legends. So towering above the city of Edinburgh, perched on an ancient volcanic rock, sits one of the most famous fortresses in the world, Edinburgh Castle. It's been home to kings and queens, besieged by armies, haunted by ghosts, and fought over for centuries. Within these walls, Scotland's history was written, sometimes in ink, sometimes in blood. And today we're unlocking its gates. Before we get to kings, rebellions, and exploding cannons, let's start with the land itself. Edinburgh Castle sits atop Castle Rock, a massive volcanic plug formed around 350 million years ago. Nature basically built Scotland the ultimate fortress, and humans just moved in. Evidence of human settlement here goes back to the Iron Age, around 850 BC. But the first written reference comes in the 7th century, when it was called Din Eden, the Fortress of Eden, by Britannic people. Whoever held Edinburgh Castle held the gateway to Scotland's heart, politically, militarily, and symbolically. That made it a prize worth fighting for, and trust me, people fought for it a lot. You know, anywhere you are in the city of Edinburgh when you're there, the city, or at least the old part of the city, is dominated by this castle. You see it hidden up, or I shouldn't say hidden. Perched atop Castle Rock here, like I said, it's built on an old volcano. And if you were like an old army coming into the town, like that's all you would have seen. You would have seen nothing but this castle that you're going to try to besiege. Good luck. You know, Edinburgh is kind of known as the town where J.K. Rowling did a lot of her writing of Harry Potter and all that stuff. And I feel like a lot of parts of the city kind of lean into that, and they probably say, "Oh yeah, for sure, yeah, J.K. was in here. She wrote the first fucking chapter in here." Like who, whatever the fuck. How do they know? How could you as a tourist ever verify that she was in there? I think in interviews she said she's dispelled some of these myths, but we know for a fact that she took some of the names from this one Greyfriars cemetery that's in Edinburgh, like McGonagall and Tom Riddle. I think there's like a grave there with that name on it. And I saw a Moody, Moodie, a little bit different than Mad Eye Moody, but again, you know, there certainly are some actual references, or there is some things that she definitely added to the book that come from Edinburgh, and those are some of them, but some of them again are a little bit more conflated. The reason I say this is because you look up at Edinburgh Castle and you can't help it. And this might have been more the filmmakers too. You can't necessarily say that this was just J.K. Rowling, but she was obviously involved in the making of the films. It fucking looks like Hogwarts bad. Like it really does. It's up on the hill. Like the way that again, either J.K. herself or at least the filmmakers of the Harry Potter movies, the way that they design Hogwarts, it fucking basically looks like it's Edinburgh Castle. So, let alone like they have the Jacobite train, whatever you want to call it. That is like the Hogwarts Express. It goes on that viaduct, that big bridge, that big gray bridge that you see in the movies. That's real, and you get to go on that. I had the privilege of going on that as well. So, again, when you see Edinburgh Castle, it has that kind of feel to it too, and it's very dominating. It's hilarious, basically at any point wherever you look, you get to see it. And we were lucky enough, even our Airbnb was actually on North Castle Street, and you could just literally look up the road and there was the castle there. So there's obviously, throughout history, like I just said, this was the key to Scotland's heart, and the way that they kind of say that, it's almost like if you look at the UK and you look at Scotland, it's kind of up in the upper left corner, or at least in the east side of things. And it is this gateway, and, the North Sea comes in there, and, anyone kind of from the Scandinavian countries that would have been coming in and traveling and exploring, they would have been kind of coming through Scotland through there. So just absolutely fascinating. So by the late 1200s, Scotland was in chaos. The king had died without an heir. Rival claimants were tearing the country apart. And England... Gotta fix the flow. In England, under Edward I, the so-called Hammer of the Scots, saw an opportunity. In 1292, Edward invades, captures Edinburgh Castle, and plants an English flag. But in 1314, Scottish forces led by Thomas Randolph scale the cliffs in a daring night raid, storm the garrison, and reclaim the castle. They destroy the walls to prevent English control, but of course it's rebuilt. Over the next centuries, Edinburgh Castle was captured, rebuilt, and besieged countless times, becoming the ultimate prize in the struggle for Scotland. Inside Edinburgh Castle today, you actually find some of Scotland's most treasured artifacts, the Honours of Scotland, the Crown Jewels, and the legendary Stone of Destiny. The stone was used for centuries in coronations until Edward I stole it in 1296 and brought it to Westminster Abbey. In 1996, exactly 700 years later, it was returned to Scotland. The Crown Jewels, the crown, sceptre, and the sword, are the oldest living regalia in the British Isles. Hidden during Cromwell's invasion and rediscovered by Sir Walter Scott in 1818. They survived against all odds. These are the crown jewels. When you hear that, and when you any new, we've only really seen two coronations, at least a British monarchy. We saw Queen Elizabeth's and then King Charles. And they actually bring the jewels in. So like Queen Elizabeth, I think they would have had them in England and Westminster Abbey at this point, stolen from Scotland. Hilarious. And the Scottish and English still don't really like each other. At least the Scots don't like the English very much. They've felt oppressed, and they are part of this whole kind of country with them, and basically have to endure and deal with them, it kind of seems. But yeah, like the jewels themselves actually come from Scotland, and actually most of the family, the Royal Yacht Britannia is in Edinburgh. A lot of the family, they are actually Scottish. So the Queen and her family, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. What is actually the Queen's, like the King and Queen, Queen, we're going to Jamie here. Pull that shit up, Jamie. The Windsors, the Windsor family, the Mountbatten Windsor, commands the British royal family of the household name of Windsor and Prince Philip's adopted name, surname of Mountbatten. Anyway, they're kind of more Scottish than they actually are English per se. So really interesting. Sir Walter Scott actually found the crown jewels in 1818, which is also really interesting. I mean, he was like a writer, but also involved in a bunch of stuff. They have an amazing monument in Edinburgh to his name, huge, one of the largest monuments to a writer, and it's just like absolutely gorgeous. As I mentioned before, over the centuries, Edinburgh Castle had been attacked, shelled, starved, and blown apart more than 26 times, making it the most besieged place in Britain. Then there's the Mons Meg, a 15th century super cannon capable of firing 150 kilogram cannonballs over 2 miles. In 1558, during celebrations for Mary, Queen of Scots' marriage, Mons Meg exploded on the ramparts. And I saw this actual cannon when I was there. It's fucking humongous. Like, the bore of it is incredible, and they actually have a few, probably recreations, but they have some of the cannonballs there, and they're like about 330 pounds, 150 kilograms, and you can kind of move them around, but they're fucking huge. Basically weigh as much as I do, and this thing can shoot a fucking cannonball 2 miles, and basically it's pointed right at like Edinburgh Harbor, I guess they would call it, but the channel where you get to come in, it's like pointed right there, so it could fucking probably take out an entire ship in like one shot. Edinburgh Castle is actually considered one of the most haunted places in the world. Visitors report shadowy figures, phantom footsteps, and the distant sound of a headless drummer, said to be an omen of disaster. Now, I didn't know this necessarily going in, and I didn't notice anything myself. I mean, there's all kinds of different places you show up, but there's not too many like where you are, where you're kind of what am I trying to say here? Like, where you feel like you're alone. Like, yes, it's a castle, and there's like some places but like there's whenever you're inside, it's usually like these big, large spaces. I mean, I went inside. I guess the chapel is very small, so there's like a little tiny chapel where you get to kind of see like all the different, like, it's been rebuilt over the years, and you can almost see in the brickwork itself, like some of the first people were there. The first people were there. They're thinking there's evidence 850 BC that there was actually people there. So, we're talking Romans, we're talking all types of different architecture, we're talking all types of different people there. So they built this chapel and kept building this chapel, and that's like where, there's coronations, and there was all these different things, and any type of like religious kind of oversight happened in this little chapel. Really, really fascinating. And but one of the other beautiful places was the War Memorial. They had the Scottish War Memorial there, and like you got to go inside, and you weren't allowed to take any pictures here. But if you paid for it, you could have this little like listening device. And if you ever do go to this castle, before I leave you guys, I should recommend, if you ever go to the castle, pay the £350 or the £450 to get this little like guided walking tour thing. I wouldn't necessarily say go with a group because it's quite large, but you can kind of listen to this audio tour, and it was really, really eye-opening and really helpful. But it takes you through the War Memorial, and it like is like there's actors, I'm assuming, reading these excerpts, but there's people like reading out excerpts, real excerpts from people, like on behalf of the person, if you will, of like their name and where they died and where they were from. And just an amazing, they did a really cool job of kind of saying like, these are people that, died for Scotland more or less, and that, these people are sacrificed their lives for all these different reasons all throughout history. Basically was like, I think since World War I and on. So they had like they were even talking about like Iraq and like all these different newer conflicts and things like that. But it was like, it was very moving. I almost had a, kind of a tear in my eye, and there's beautiful architecture, and right out front of it is this like soldier that's kind of like all wrapped up like a wounded soldier essentially, but the way that they're placed on the monument itself, the rest of the monument kind of overshadows it. There's kind of like, it's like in a niche kind of, and that niche almost shadows adds shadow to the face of it. It was like really interesting. So again, yeah, seeing certain things, just seeing the formidable position that this castle resides in, like I just couldn't imagine what it was like in its heyday, so to speak. Today, Edinburgh Castle is one of Scotland's top attractions, drawing over 2 million visitors a year. But it's more than a landmark. It's a symbol of resilience, independence, and identity. The fortress has seen monarchs rise and fall, treasures stolen in return, battles fought and lost. And yet, after all of it, Edinburgh Castle still stands, towering above the city, keeping centuries of Scottish history alive. If you ever get a chance to stand there high above the Royal Mile, take a moment to breathe it in. Imagine the soldiers, the kings, the rebels, the prisoners. The castle isn't just Scotland's fortress, it's Scotland's heart. That's it for this episode, everyone. Thank you all for listening. It's a short and sweet one today. Like I said, if you ever do get a chance to go out there, get that walking tour. Actually, funny enough, if you're listening, shout out Mark, shout out Chris from Sean and Ed's. Actually, Stacey Perot, one of the previous guests here on the Bigmark podcast, I ran into her pops at Edinburgh Castle when I was there. Out of anywhere, who knows? There's so many people there, thousands, hundreds of thousands, fucking tens of thousands of people going through their day. And I ran into the boys. So anything can happen. Thanks y'all for listening. Love y'all. See you next week.